We got music, we got art. Love is love, sets us apart. It's a virtual town, so inviting. You know they want you around, it's exciting. Oh, the party's going on in the disco. You can never be bored in the disco. But we're not here, we're over there, socializing and sharing. So I better see you in the disco. Story time, movie nights. We get messy and watch the fights. It's a virtual town and it's going. Very busy with the love we've been showing. Oh, the party's going on in the disco. You could never be bored in the disco. When we're not here, we're over there, socializing and sharing. So I better see you in the disco. In the disco. In the disco. In the disco. In the disco.
Where you looking for me at? In the Discord?
Sweeping the nation. After deploying the National Guard to Washington, D.C., now the White House plans to extend its effort across 19 states, all with the goal of curbing crime and supporting immigration enforcement. We'll talk to Republican Congressman Pat Fallon in just a moment. Plus, an illegal alien accused of killing 3 people in a truck accident is due in court today. What he's facing as yet
19 states. I think the first state he said is Chicago.
Real estate. They want to replace some of those, and this will go further. We're starting very strongly. More than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals roving.
See all of you here again today. We asked that President Trump would treat another world leader like a world leader. The media relentlessly attacked President Trump and claimed he suffered a, quote, major defeat for not immediately emerging with a final agreement, even though he said heading into that meeting, this was a meeting to listen and to understand how to move.
Yeah, it's going down for sure, for sure.
Following those historic U.S.-Russia bilateral talks,
FDT.
clueless pundits on television trying but failing to claim that the president had failed. The so-called experts in the foreign policy establishment, whose record is nothing but endless wars, trillions of wasted taxpayer dollars, and dead Americans, have the nerve to try and lecture President Trump, who has solved 7 global conflicts in 7 months, about peace. This is the same president, by the way, who brokered the Abraham Accords in his first term, on top of more than half a dozen other peace deals this year alone, as I just said. We also saw yesterday the president of Ukraine and all of the other major leaders of Europe fly across the Atlantic Ocean to meet.
Tap that screen, get those likes up.
Progress that was made, and that, if you ask the media, failed meeting, but it was not. It was highly productive and it was successful. This is why Americans' trust in the mass media is at a lowest point in more than 5 decades. Diplomacy is a delicate process, and instead of reporting the facts about what is happening here at this White House and what is happening between this president and other leaders around the world, many outlets in this room continue to try to actively undermine the president and sabotage the efforts towards peace. That is why I felt the need to set the record straight. In other news, on the home front, President Trump's efforts to make D.C. safe again are working. There have been a total of 465 arrests since the start of this operation on Thursday, August 7th. Last night, there were a total of 52 arrests, including the arrest of an illegal alien MS-13 gang member with convictions for DWI and drug possession. Thanks to President Trump's leadership and the outstanding work of both federal and local law enforcement, dangerous gang members like the one picked up last night will not be allowed on the streets of our nation's capital. Other arrests last night included assault with a deadly weapon for stabbing, parole violation for robbery, murder, outstanding warrant for attempted murder, assault on federal law enforcement officer, and felony assault. 4 more homeless encampments were also removed during yesterday's reporting period. To date, a total of 48 homeless encampments have been cleared in Washington, D.C. by multi-agency teams. MPD patrol units are actively working with city officials to locate and clear additional encampments and remove homeless residents off of Washington streets. And despite fake narratives...
Now, what they're not telling you about these homeless people is it's like certain places like Florida where they started this same process. They got to move a bunch of homeless people off of federal land and stuff like that. So we got to ask, where are these homeless people going? Where are they putting them, right? So it might be a lot of things happening, but what is really going on, right? Because if there's numbers of homeless people, like you remember 2 years ago, they showed lines of homeless people in downtown areas, so on and so forth. Where are they going? Is there some housing process that we don't know about? Is some type of housing program going on? Because right now, there ain't a project building that's holding a bunch of homeless people, so on and so forth. So until we get some type of housing program in process, where are we putting the homeless people? We can't just shuffle them around different states, right? They got to go somewhere. We too high on, when it comes down to such as, old folks home, so on and so forth. So how? We can't get an old folks home program going. Nurses are losing their job, and now you want us to just do something with the homeless people. So this is where the incarceration process come in. So all part of homeless, where are you going to deport them to? Where are you going to deport the homeless people to? You got a country for them already? Is there a homeward bound country somewhere? Is there an island for them already? Come on, we got to do the stuff that makes sense. Let's do the stuff that makes sense, people.
In high crime areas of DC. In fact, nearly half of all of the non-illegal alien related arrests have occurred in wards
Skid
7
Row.
and 8. The 2 wards that have the highest number of violent
That's what they're going to create.
as well as homicides and assaults with dangerous weapons last year.
It's going to be one strip that's all negative.
Violent criminals, President Trump and this administration are focused on putting them behind
Like on the
bars
wire.
and unapologetically standing up for the safety of law-abiding American citizens, and the White House will continue to provide all of you with the results of this operation in the days ahead. So with that, I will take your questions today. Here in our new media seat today, we have Jack Posobiec, who joined us in Anchorage, Alaska last week. Jack, thanks for being here.
Questions regarding the status of these peace talks. Obviously, we saw the president and Putin there in Anchorage. We saw the world leaders here yesterday with this summit. We've heard phrases like coalition of the willing. We've also heard Article 5-like guarantees. When it comes to the security guarantees, what is the current status of that? I know the president earlier today mentioned boots on the ground with the UK, France, Germany possibly, but unequivocally said no U.S. troops on the ground, but U.S. coordination. Can you elaborate on that? What would the red lights be?
Sure. Well, you got to the heart of what I was going to say to all of you today on security guarantees, which is the president has definitively stated U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination and perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies. The president understands security guarantees are crucially important to ensure a lasting peace, and he has directed his national security team to coordinate with our friends in Europe and also to continue to cooperate and discuss these matters with Ukraine and Russia as well.
Russians responded at all. I know we spoke with President Putin last night. What has been their response? Because we've heard some reports from the Kremlin and others saying they're unequivocally against NATO troops on the ground.
Well, look, the president continues to have these conversations with both leaders. Those conversations took place in Anchorage, Alaska, again yesterday with the Europeans and President Zelensky, and he has directed his team to come up with a framework for these security guarantees that can be acceptable to help ensure a lasting peace in the hemisphere.
Real quick on this. Regarding some of the funding, we're hearing questions about weapon sales, possibly around U.S. purchases of Ukrainian drones. Will that money be funded by the U.S. taxpayers? Are we finally going to see an end to the U.S. taxpayer-funded, seemingly endless mandate for these foreign wars?
Well, the president is very sensitive to the needs of the American taxpayer, and immediately upon entering office back in January, he made it very clear that we're not going to continue writing blank checks to fund a war very far away, which is why he came up with a very creative solution to have NATO purchase American weaponry because it is the best in the world, and then to backfill the needs of the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian people and their military. So that's the solution the president has came up with. We'll continue to see that forward. As for any additional sales, I'll have to defer to the Department of Defense. Thanks, Jack. Kelly.
What has President Trump learned that tells him that Vladimir Putin would be willing to make a deal for him, for President Trump?
Well, the president has learned a lot, which is part of the reason he opened up this dialogue. The previous administration, who oversaw the beginning of this war, refused to talk. And President Trump has always said, in order to learn, in order to move the ball forward with diplomacy and towards peace, you have to have open dialogue. And so that's why the president has had several conversations by phone and, of course, an in-person meeting last Friday with President Putin. He also has talked to President Zelensky dozens of times, had him here at the White House yesterday, and he's understanding what both sides want, what both sides are going to have to give up. And he has always said, in order to get a good deal, both sides are going to have to walk away a little bit unhappy. So he continues to learn a lot throughout these conversations, which is why we've seen progress from both sides. And I would also just add, when it comes to learning and moving the ball forward, look at how both Russia and Ukraine have actually talked directly for the first time in many years, thanks to the efforts of this president and this administration.
For President Trump, then, what?
Y'all make sure y'all go follow Ralph the Wise on TikTok.
Something for President Trump, as opposed to just resolving the
We live over there too. See? We live over there on Ralph the Wise on TikTok. Go follow Ralph the Wise on TikTok. Ralph the Wise. Go follow that.
To demand that respect from our allies, our friends, our adversaries all around the world. And we've seen that not just lead to progress with Russia and Ukraine, but also we've seen it in the closing of 7 global
Paul sounds triggered.
as well. We've seen it
Might
with
be.
the hostages in Gaza. We've seen it with the end of the conflict between India and Pakistan.
A lot of people are triggered by everything that's coming out.
If we had not had a president who believed in the strength and the leverage that comes with the job of being the president of the United States of America. Rachel.
heading into Alaska.
Good credit, bad credit,
Trilateral
forget it.
Can you explain how this went from a trilateral meeting involving President Trump to now the focus being on this bilateral meeting without the president first?
Well, look, the president has spoken to both leaders about this, and both leaders have expressed a willingness to sit down with each other. And so our national security team will help both countries do that. Ultimately, the president
Paul,
also
stop
said
all capsing.
that there are areas of disagreement in this war that will have to be discussed. and decided.
Please do not all caps in the comment section.
And so he wants these two countries to engage in direct diplomacy. He's said that from the very beginning, which is why he's agreeable to the idea of having President Zelensky and President Putin get together. And I understand accommodations for that meeting are underway. As soon as we hear more details, we'll be sure to let all of you know.
Just a quick follow-up. We know as of right now there is no ceasefire in place. We've seen Russia continue its attacks on Ukraine. What indications is the president getting from Putin that he wants to have this meeting with Zelensky soon?
Because he spoke to him directly yesterday.
And he expressed that
Haley.
sooner rather than later.
He spoke to that directly yesterday, and the president put that in his statement that he gave to all of you, the news media, knowing you'd be asking following that conversation in the effort of transparency. Haley.
You made clear no U.S. boots on the ground. Is the president considering U.S. boots in the air as a form of security guarantee?
Look, that was something the president mentioned on his interview this morning. It is an option and a possibility. I won't certainly rule out anything as far as military options that the president has at his disposal. I'll let him do that. I can tell you he's definitively ruled out boots on the ground. Sure.
Paul, you're still all capsing, Paul. See? See, you're gonna get blocked. You're gonna get muted. You're gonna get muted. You gotta know how to act. In this chat, we're gonna keep you updated and keep you informed, but you gotta act right in the chat. Alright, y'all get that like button up, tap the screen, share the live, copy the link.
But I can tell you there are many options that are being discussed by our national security team right now with both parties. I just told you we'll provide you details as soon as we can. Thank you for trying, though. Libby.
wanted to ask about the national guard. How is the White House coordinating with company placed in DC areas? And then also, how long should people here in the district anticipate the National Guard to be on the ground patrol the streets?
I don't have a timeline for you, Libby, but we will keep you posted on that. I think the president, as you know, and this administration, he came to this briefing room with members of his cabinet to lay out the rationale and the reasoning for federalizing the National Guard here in Washington, D.C., and for our work with the Metropolitan Police Department to make our district safer. We've seen violent crime has taken the lives of far too many residents here in our nation's capital, and the president wants to make it safe again. And as for the coordination efforts, this interagency team is meeting and talking daily. In fact, there's a meeting taking place right now in the West Wing with members of the interagency task force to continue to discuss not just the National Guard deployment, but also how we can continue to remove public safety threats off of the streets of Washington, which, as the numbers I just showed you prove, they are doing every single night. I will just reiterate, 465 total arrests and counting since the start of this operation. I believe 11 or 12 days ago, I'll have to check the calendar, but those are pretty remarkable results. If not for this task force and their high level of coordination and the leadership of this president, there would have been 465 more violent criminals on the streets of this capital that you all live in every day. So I think we should all be very grateful for that.
Well, damn.
Two questions about the DC crackdown.
Sure.
First, I was wondering if you
We need to worry about Venezuela.
getting rid of the slums where criminals live. Was he talking about tents or permanent residential buildings? And then the mayor has expressed an interest in clarifying how much of a focus illegal immigration enforcement is as part of this crackdown. Can you say anything about that?
Sure.
Third, any preview on the beautification?
3 questions. I'll try to answer all 3 of them pointedly for you. First, when it comes to what you said, and the president said, the slums of Washington, D.C., he's referring to the most dangerous communities, neighborhoods, and streets in the city where, unfortunately, violence has ravaged these communities and taken the lives of, again, far too many law-abiding D.C. residents. We know on July 5th of this year, just more than a month ago, a 3-year-old beautiful young girl was shot and killed in her car with her family in one of these communities, which is why there has been a surge, despite what many of you have been falsely reporting. And I believe it was the Washington Post who put out a map claiming it to be fact-based,
Well,
just based on
trying to.
accounts that they've heard on the street, not actual statistics.
We'll
that
get
they
into
know.
that.
So we went
Just
and
stick around. We'll
looked
get
at
into that. Make sure y'all hit the like button.
Nearly half of all the non-illegal alien-related arrests have occurred in wards 7 and 8 in the District of Columbia, where we know, excuse me, there's the highest rate of crime. So we'll continue to do that. And what was your second question, Stephen?
Legal immigration, how much of a focus that is?
Yeah, look, I mean, the focus is to make DC safe and beautiful and to remove public safety threats and violent criminals from our streets. If federal law enforcement, with the help of the Metropolitan Police Department, come across illegal aliens, of course, we are going to abide by this administration's policy of law and order, and we are going to remove illegal criminals from our nation's capital. They will be detained and deported, just like they are in every other community across the country. Kristen.
First question, whose idea was it to change the next steps from a trilateral to a bilateral?
It was an idea that evolved in the course of the president's conversations with both President Putin, President Zelensky, and the European leaders yesterday. And as you saw, Kristen, with all of those European leaders leaving the White House, including the NATO Secretary General, they all agreed that this is a great first step.
Yeah, they said Chicago is the next place.
Leaders are going to be sitting down together, and the president expects that to happen.
DC's a part of the U.S.
Willing to wait and operate in good faith.
District of Columbia.
Arrange a meeting before he intervenes.
Look, the president has put tremendous public pressure to bring this war to a close. He's taken actions, as you've seen, sanctions on India and other actions as well. He's made himself very clear that he wants to see this war end, and he has scoffed at the ideas of others that have been raised that we should wait another month before any meeting takes place. The president wants to move, and he wants to bring this war to an end as quickly as possible.
Clarification on something you said earlier about Putin agreeing to the meeting. The Kremlin seemed to indicate that Putin did not firmly agree to a bilateral. Did he agree to have a sit down with just Zelensky on the phone?
I can assure you that the United States government and the Trump administration is working with both Russia and Ukraine to make that happen. Sean.
Just to get everybody on the same page, why wouldn't Trump just take the call from Putin while the other leaders were in the room? He said it was disrespectful to do that. Why is it disrespectful?
With all due respect, only a reporter from the New York Times would ask a question like that, Sean. The president met with all of these European leaders at the White House 48 hours after sitting down with President Putin on American soil. In fact, there was so much progress in the readout that was given to these European leaders immediately following his meeting with President Putin that every single one of them got on a plane 48 hours later and flew to the United States of America. And if I could just read for all of you some of the statements from those European leaders yesterday, you had President Zelensky himself saying it was a very good conversation. It was really good. We spoke about very sensitive points. The Secretary General, Mark Rutte, it was the president only because of the president that this deadlock was broken, but with President Putin by starting a dialogue. So these leaders, who this war is in their backyard, are very grateful that the president took that call and that he was there to provide them with a readout of Russia's thinking on this, something that was not done by the previous administration at all. Catherine. I'm not going to confirm or deny.
Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the page. Subscribe to the page.
Question. I understand that the White House is working and allies are working to make this meeting happen, but did Putin promise to do a meeting with Zelensky, a direct meeting in the coming weeks?
He has, and I just answered that question for you. Franco.
Thanks. I just want to clarify. So you are saying that President Trump is considering U.S. pilots and U.S. aircraft potentially supporting European or Ukrainian forces?
The president spoke to that himself this morning when he called into Fox and Friends, and I would defer you to his answer. You can read it directly yourself. Sure.
In addition, can I ask, no boots on the ground, Steve Witkoff's talking about Article 5 like security guarantees. Can you talk about what other Article 5 like security guarantees that are being considered if it's not boots on the ground?
These are very sensitive diplomatic discussions that are currently taking place literally as we speak. So I will leave it to the national security team, and I'll leave it to the president to have those private discussions with these leaders as we try to bring this war to an end. Mary Margaret, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions, if possible. So on these meetings, I know you said that the trilateral will take place if necessary. Do you think that we might not need the trilateral and that Zelensky and Putin might come to this conclusion on their own? And then as a follow-up, I know the president said on Fox News this morning that he's partially seeking peace in order to get to heaven. Was he joking, or is there spiritual motivation behind his peace deals here?
I think the president was serious. I think the president wants to get to heaven, as I hope we all do in this room as well. Annie.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm just shifting gears to the Department of Justice for a minute. Can you walk us through why another deputy FBI director was named? Does Trump have any displeasure with how the FBI has been being run to date? And then I have a question about the antitrust.
No, Andrew Bailey is extremely qualified. As you know, he's been serving with honor as the Attorney General of Missouri, and he's been brought on as another set of very credible and experienced hands to work alongside the current Deputy Director, Dan Bongino, under the leadership of the Director, Kash Patel, and the Attorney General.
Now make sure y'all join the Discord.
And the FBI has been doing a tremendous
Come over to the
job
Discord.
keeping agents out on the streets as part of this interagency task force here in Washington. But the crime that they've been stopping here in Washington, they've been doing this for 7 months all across the country. In fact, there's been 19,000 arrests by the FBI nationwide. That's more than double last year in the same time period. Of those, 1,600 arrests were for violent crimes against children. 4,000 child victims have been rescued by this FBI under this current leadership. 1,000 arrests from investigations of foreign terrorist organizations. There's been 1,500 kilos of fentanyl seized, 6,300 kilos of meth have been seized, and 3 of the top 10 most wanted have been arrested so far. Not a single one of the individuals on the top 10 most wanted list were arrested under the previous administration. We've arrested 3 in 7 months. So when you're actually working and enforcing law and order, you need all hands on deck. And so we look forward to welcoming Andrew Bailey to this new post. Jackie.
I have a quick question about Roger Alfred, who's a former DOJ official. He gave a speech in Aspen yesterday where he said that senior DOJ aides are cutting deals with favored lobbyists. I'm wondering if the president has any concerns at all with the way the antitrust division is working.
I have no idea who that individual is. I don't know why he made those comments. I don't know what basis he's making those comments on. My instinct tells me it's not true, but we will definitely look into them and I'll get you a response. Jackie.
Thanks, Caroline. This president often says that this war would not have started if he were in office,
True.
and Putin confirmed that.
It's true. Do you accept that as true? The European leaders do.
Well,
And President Putin himself said that.
I did say that. The question I have though is, what is the president going to do to ensure that these security guarantees last beyond him into the time when he is no longer president? And does that have to involve Congress at all?
Well, he understands the need for that, which he spoke to yesterday. And what's he going to do? It's why he's engaging in so many talks and so many conversations with both sides of this war with our European allies. It's why on the way home from Anchorage, Alaska, very late at night, when I know many of you on the press plane were sleeping and many staff were sleeping, the president himself was still awake at 2 o'clock in the morning talking to European leaders and NATO about how we can ensure a lasting peace and bring this conflict to an end. He has expended an incredible amount of time, energy, and effort into bringing this war to an end, and he remains determined to do that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
Crime.
Sure, Jake, and then to your right.
Sure. Thank you, Caroline. Which of the half dozen peace deals have the president pulled off would you say he's the most proud of? And then I have a
That's a good question, Jake. I'll leave that to the president to answer. I think he's proud of all of the peace deals that he's been able to achieve. You saw the president of Armenia and the head of Azerbaijan, both at the White House just a couple of weeks ago. The president, I know, very much enjoyed spending time with them and helping to bring that conflict to an end. He very much enjoyed his time with leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the Oval Office, talking to them about bringing that decades-long war to an end. India and Pakistan, he used trade in a very powerful way as leverage to bring that conflict to an end. So I know he's very proud of all of these achievements, and I know he's very honored to serve as the President of the United States and to restore peace around this world. Go ahead.
You mentioned Armenia and Azerbaijan. That's a conflict that, I spent time in the Southern Caucasus covering that. And, a conflict of over 30 years, and he resolved it in just a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other conflicts that the president's working on right now that are off the radar screen that we should be tracking?
In fact, there are many. The State Department is always working around the clock under the leadership of Secretary Rubio and keeping the president apprised of conflicts that are bubbling up all over the world. But of course, as you all know, as we've talked a lot about in this briefing, he's spending a lot of time right now on ending this war in Russia and Ukraine, and of course the conflict in Israel and Gaza, which he wants to see come to a close as well. Sure, go ahead.
But states administer elections, not federal authorities. So can you provide any more details about how the White House plans to mitigate that?
The White House continues to work on this, and when Congress comes back to Washington, I'm sure there will be many discussions with our friends on Capitol Hill and also our friends in state legislatures across the country to ensure that we're protecting the integrity of the vote for the American people. And I think Republicans generally, and the president generally, wants to make it easier for Americans to vote and harder for people to cheat in our elections. And it's quite mind-boggling that the Democrat Party could stand in opposition to common sense. He wants to ensure election integrity. There were great efforts that were made in 2024. I won't get ahead of myself for Hatch Act reasons to get ahead for the next election, but I can assure you this is a priority.
If I can just follow up on your comments about Gaza.
Sure.
There was a ceasefire proposal put forward by both Qatar and Egypt. Hamas accepted it on Monday. Israel has yet to officially weigh in. I'm wondering if the U.S. was at all involved in it, if it's supportive of it, and whether or not the president believes Israel should accept it.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Hamas accepted this proposal after the President of the United States posted a very strong statement.
11,000 vote cities were looking for it.
Yesterday. I would refer you back to that statement. As for this,
It's so much bullshit coming out, right?
The United States continues to discuss it, and I'll let the president weigh in on it definitively. You're welcome. Sure.
Describe the president's perspective on taking a stake in Intel in exchange for federal grants. And is this are we expecting to see the White House?
We're still looking to get 100 active members in the Discord, so please join the Discord. 100 active members, and then we can rotate around applications and help people build their accounts, help people, you know, grow their accounts. So we need 100 active members in the Discord. Please join the Discord.
So we can ultimately implement tariffs, and it's why our export license requirements remain in place as well. As for this 10% government-state deal, the Department of Commerce continues to work on it. I know Secretary Lutnick is working on it and ironing out the details, but the president wants to put America's needs first.
Gamers too,
National security,
because I do game on
a creative idea that has never been done before.
Oh, you want me to turn it up?
To ensure that we're both reshoring these critical supply chains while also gaining something of it for the American taxpayer. You're welcome. Emily.
Thanks, Caroline. I wanted to ask about the 3DS worship.
Anybody that's in the Discord can create a Discord link. You just got to go to the
What I will say with respect to Venezuela,
Order of Atlas
President
thing
Trump
and
has
then
been
go
very
to
clear
create
and
a link.
consistent. He's prepared to
The
use
link in the
every
bio
ounce
should
of
be
American
active.
power to
Should be
stop
a
drugs
forever
from
link.
flooding into our country and to bring
If
those
not, click on the link
responsible,
tree.
to justice.
Go into the
Maduro
link
regime
tree.
is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel.
Oh, hold on. They're talking about Venezuela now. So this is the update on Venezuela. Basically saying Venezuela is being ran by like a corrupted president that's allowing drugs, so on and so forth. Some of that stuff is coming over into America. So I think it's a $50 million reward out for the Venezuela president, so on and so forth. And, you know, this is actually something that's important. Venezuela's right there. Right there in South America. So that's a border that actually covers and comes into Mexico, so on and so forth. So this is the part that I think everybody need to pay attention to. Allegedly, Trump has deployed, you know, so many soldiers and so many ships to Venezuela. So that's happening right now. So pay attention, man. It's good to be updated. It's good to be informed. The Discord is right there. Soul Sparks just put the Discord link in there. Please click on that Discord link. We need 100 active members over there. What we're trying to do is move positivity on social media. So we're trying to do a positive wave. I have accounts on TikTok. If you need help building an account, I want to help you build your account. We have a social media management company, and we want to help people grow their accounts. So please join the Discord. If not, click the link that is in the bio. Discord is like another social media app that people can use to stay informed, stay connected. And I post all of my lives, whether live on TikTok or live over here. I post that in the Discord so people can keep posted. We have multiple pages, you know, so therefore we operate in the multiverse, which is online. So I would love to have you guys over there. And like I said, the Discord is... I'll show you guys the Discord real quick. So it's just like this. The Discord is just like this, right? Anyone in the Discord that is trying to create a link, right? You just click up here and then you go to invite and then it lets you create a link. You can go to copy link or edit link right here. So for the people that's in the Discord, you can create your own link and put it in the chat for people to come join the Discord, okay?
In Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country. And with that, I will leave you all, and we will see you later, if not tomorrow, and I look forward to taking more of your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Thank you.
Now, you might have to take that link and put it in your browser. You might have to copy that link and then post it in your browser. It might not let you click on it straight from here, especially if you don't have Discord. If you don't have Discord, you might have to just copy the link and then put it in your browser, and then it'll pop up.
Gridlock. On Friday, as you all know, many of you were there, President Trump hosted Russian President Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska, for a bilateral meeting. This was the first time President Putin has been to the United States since 2015, and the first time he has met with an American president in years. President Putin publicly confirmed what President Trump has said all along. The war between Russia and Ukraine never would have started in the first place if President Trump were in office. This was always obvious to any person with a shred of common sense. Just look at what took place during the last 4 administrations. Under George W. Bush, Russia invaded Georgia. Under Barack Obama, Russia took Crimea. Under Joe Biden, Russia invaded Ukraine. But under President Trump, Russia did not invade nor take anything. President Trump is the only president this century, Republican or Democrat, who has held Russia in check and ensured peace in Europe. That's because Russia has always greatly respected President Trump and his peace through strength foreign policy approach. But overall, the bilateral talks in Alaska were very productive, and multiple key points were agreed to between the two leaders that truly opened up the doors for phase 2 discussions, which took place yesterday here at the White House, within 48 hours of that meeting in Anchorage, I may add. As you all know, there were many European leaders here, as well as Ukrainian President Zelensky. They all traveled here to meet with President Trump to maintain the momentum and work toward a lasting peace. Across the board, every leader credited President Trump for his decisive leadership that has reignited the dialogue in hopes of finally bringing this war to a peaceful conclusion. Two quotes in particular capture the progress that was made and the optimism moving forward. Finnish President Alexander Stubb said, "I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have had in the past 3.5 years. Again, that is the president of Finland, a country that shares a border with Russia. That's what we call the President Trump effect. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte also summed it up well. Without President Trump, this deadlock with Putin would not have been broken. He is the only one who could do this. Following the encouraging conversations yesterday, President Trump spoke with President Putin by phone, and he agreed to begin the next phase of the peace process, a meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky, which would be followed, if necessary, by a trilateral meeting between President Putin, President Zelensky, and President Trump. As the president said, Vice President Vance, Secretary Rubio, and Special Envoy Witkoff will continue to coordinate with Russia and Ukraine to make this happen as soon as possible. It's very important to remember that before President Trump's landslide victory last November, there was no end in sight to this bloodshed. Now, there may finally be light at the end of the tunnel and an opportunity for lasting peace. That's because President Trump is the peace president, and American leadership is back on the world stage. It should not be lost on anyone in this room that world leaders are coming right here to Washington, D.C. for help.
The peace president, hold on, lady, hold on. We gotta listen to somebody, because I understand Trump. If Trump is pushing for peace, I hope we get it. I hope we get this peace.
Those roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people, and we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes to our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, it's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you say, take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad is, we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. DC, 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. Is that where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster.
We don't want to show the
And
real
nobody
numbers,
did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. Every American has a constitutional right to be able to access and petition their government in safety, and countless federal officials and employees likewise have the right to carry out their jobs in peace without being shot. As you know, I lost a very good person a while ago, was shot waiting for his wife. He was in the car, they robbed his car, they shot him, they killed him like it was nothing to it. She was walking to the car, it's a horror show. This issue directly impacts the functioning of the federal government and is a threat to America, really. It's a threat to our country. We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with DC, and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say. Days ago, a former member of the DOJ staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead, with a broken nose and concussion. Can't believe that he's alive. He can't believe it. In June, a 21-year-old congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood in a carjacking blocks away from the White House. We all know him. Great person. Waiting for his wife as she was walking to the car. A Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. And in 2023, an aide to Senator Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest and head by a demented lunatic.
The Epstein Files was released.
Just
Well, Congress will be seeing them.
Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot in the head and killed while sitting in a car near the Capitol. It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness. And we're getting rid of the slums too. We have slums here, we're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night, and they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police. As the police are standing up there in uniform, they're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit, and they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any such of this, and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety crisis stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash bail. By the way, every place in the country where you have no cash bail is a disaster. That's what started the problem in New York, and they don't change it. They don't want to change it. That's what started it in Chicago. I mean, bad politicians started it, bad leadership started it, but that was the one thing that's central, no cash bail. Somebody murders somebody and they're out on no cash bail before the day is out. We're going to end that in Chicago. We're going to change the statute. I spoke with Pam and Todd and everybody. We're going to change the statute, and I'm going to have to get the Republicans to vote because the Democrats are weak on crime. Totally weak on crime. They don't know why. They want to stop because they get mugged too. But we're going to change no cash bail. We're going to change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. And we'll count on the Republicans in Congress and Senate to vote. We have the majority, so we'll vote. We don't have a big majority, but we've gotten everything, including the great, big, beautiful bill. Got that done, and that's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to people in this country. They're starting to figure it out, how good it is. Biggest tax cut in history. So many things. But we'll be able to get that done, so Todd, if you and Pam can draw up things working with the people, I'll get it passed. We'll get it passed with the Republicans. Probably won't get, think of this, probably won't get one Democrat vote because they have no idea what they're doing. That's why they want men playing in women's sports. That's why they want transgender for everybody transgender. And they've just got walloped in an election, in a landslide, and they haven't changed one thing. I saw the other day the certain gentleman who was very well-known politician, Democrat, was fighting like hell that men should be allowed to play in women's sport. They just don't get it. They said it's an 80-20 issue, and I think it's a 97-3 issue. And I don't know who the three are. I've never heard anybody nobody's ever come up to me, sir, you have to let men play in women's sports. You have to do it, sir. Nobody's ever approached me. I don't know where this issue even comes from. Never seen anything like it. But they turned our nation's capital into a sanctuary jurisdiction. That's the other thing. We have to get rid of sanctuary cities as quickly as possible. We're going to do it, too. We have to. Because it's sanctuary for criminals. Releasing illegal alien gang members onto the streets in 2022, nearly 70% of criminals arrested in Washington went unprosecuted. That's not going to happen with the group we have standing aside and standing behind me. And at the Metropolitan Police Department, it's now reached a small number relatively compared to what it was, but it's thousands of people. You know, we have thousands of police. I was told today, sir, they want more police. I heard a number, 3,500 police. That's a lot of police. 3,500. I thought they were going to say, we only have 30 policemen or women. They said, we have 3,500. We need more. You don't need more. That's so many. I never heard. That's like an army. How can you need more than 3,000? It just happened 2 minutes ago. So they've requested more police. Oh, what do they have? About 3,500. I said, 3,500? This is not a big area. It's ridiculous. What you need is rules and regulations, and you need the right people to implement them. And we have the right people here, that I can tell you. Look at the border. Biden said there's nothing you can do. Kamala was the border czar. She never called one of the Border Patrol agents who are great. ICE is great. Never spoke to anybody. Never went there. But she was the border czar. And everybody said it was impossible to fix. I fixed it in 3 months. No, really. I fixed it the first week, but really fixed it over the last couple of months. And I mean, literally to a point where, as I said, 0 illegals entering our country in the last 90 days. Pretty amazing. It's time for dramatic action. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking to take years, because a lot of people die in years. And we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that we will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. You know, a lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have a DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime. We're not gonna have crime either. They made dozens of arrests, and that's what starts to happen. Again, cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way. Because we're talking about safety, we're also talking about beautification.
So I think today they're going to meet in Hungary. I think today he's meeting in Hungary. I'm not sure.
From Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged.
Oh, yesterday.
Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top. No, we don't have to rip the road out and spend 7 years building a new road because they cut everything. Because some designers said, well, we need a 1/4 of an inch more turn for safety reasons. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to get it done quickly. So today we're declaring public safety emergency. The District of Columbia and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor, our new DEA administrator, who's one of the top in the country. He better be Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast. Terry Cole. Terry, thanks. Very good. We just got him. Most highly recommended person. And you'll be designated as the interim federal commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department. Okay? And you run them tough. They're good. You have a lot of good people. You have people that shouldn't be there. You also have people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke. But you have a lot of great police, and those people are the ones that want to help you. This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy, because you'll be safe. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police, or you're going to see FBI agents. We're going to have a lot of agents on the street. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way. We're going to have National Guard. But Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed. People say, oh, that's so terrible. He's going to bring in, it's been used many times over the years. I don't think we'll need it. I think we've got so many great people, including the people that are in the police department with proper leadership. They'll immediately begin massive enforcement operations targeting known gangs, drug dealers, and criminal networks to get them the hell off the street, maybe get them out of the country, because a lot of them came into our country illegally. They shouldn't have been allowed in. They come from Venezuela. They come from all over the world. We're going to get them the hell out. They won't be here long. But some of these people, a lot of them, are homegrown criminals. And these are bad people. These are rough people. And this is just a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the DC streets this weekend. They were rough and tough. But we're rougher and tougher. Look at these people here. Nothing, you know, they're not going to be your local school teacher. Look at this guy, he has killed people numerous times. They're not going to be an asset. They will never be an asset to society. I don't care. I know we all want to say, oh, they're going to be rehabbed. It's not going to be rehabbed. I'm going to ask Doug Burgum to come up and say a couple of words, because he's in charge, as you know. He's Interior, but he's in charge of the U.S. Park Police. And I've heard so many great things about the Park Police. They're proud of it. They've been there for a long time. Their families oftentimes grow into the roles. They love the country. They love this area. So, Doug, could you say a few words, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the U.S. Park Police, this is the oldest federal police force in the nation. They were formed in 1791 by none other than President George Washington. They've got the awesome responsibility of protecting our nation's most sacred monuments. The National Mall, Washington Monument, Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Statue of Liberty, and out west, the Presidio and the Golden Gate area. These folks have tens of millions of visitors a year, the kind of people that President Trump's talking about that come from around the country and around the world to see our. See,
this is why I only fuck with mega fans. Because mega fans can take some shit. They can hear some bullshit. They can take some bullshit. They ain't trying to they don't give a fuck. They like, so, you said this about me? So, you said that about me? So, can't beat me? So, like, that's why I fuck with mega fans. That's why I fuck with them. You know what I'm saying? They know how to hold their tongue and they tough as fuck, right? Mega fans. See, all they want to do on the Democratic side is cry, complain, and fucking bicker and worry about cracking some ceiling that nobody fucking. You know what? I ain't even gonna speak on it. I'm gonna be quiet.
Our sacred.
I'm gonna be quiet.
About our history.
I'm gonna be quiet.
Monuments. They've been doing a
I'm gonna be
fantastic
quiet.
job, but they are so pleased, the rank and file, that President Trump is now allowing them to enforce the law. As those of you that live in the city may know, that the circles and the triangle parks that are spread throughout
it goes
DC
both ways, don't it?
Federal park
Hypocrisy
property.
goes
So
both
US
ways,
park
don't
police
it?
Also have responsibility for that. These became littered with homeless camps under the Biden administration.
Can you imagine
We saw that,
what we be looking
since
like?
President Trump's executive order on March 27th, making
Both-
DC safe and
both sides
beautiful
have
again. The US
issues,
Park
yeah.
Police have removed over 70 homeless camps. And President Trump also talked about beautification. They're stopping and enforcing the law.
Oh no, that's not a belt buckle that you hear. I'm gonna show you what you hear. So this is what you hear right here. You hear the unks that represent life. You hear my mom, because her energy is with me. This is a keepsake. Keep her ashes in it. And you hear this right here, which is the seed of David, the chest plate that was given to the tribes of Israel. So that's what you hear. And then you hear my crystals. That's what you hear.
Laws against graffiti on our monuments. They've removed over 80 specific attacks against our history with graffiti on our monuments. So they continue to do a great job, whether it's in their vehicles, on foot, or on the mounted police that you see around the National Mall. And President Trump, they thank you. The rank and file is so happy to be enforcing the law again. Thank you for your leadership, and they're excited about the announcement you're making today.
Thank you very much.
Hey, listen.
Thank you very much.
I mean, listen, you got to think about it. Trump is challenging people to be better, do better, right? You wouldn't need, there wouldn't be a necessity for a Donald Trump in the White House if everybody wanted to do better, right? If everybody was participating in Workforce America, if everybody went out and got jobs, right? So yes, housing authority is messed up. Yes, they're making it hard for housing, making it 3 times the amount that you need to make, but they're trying to change that. But if everybody was trying to participate, then we would have a better America. If everybody was caring about each other, we would have a better America. We damn near like China now, just walking around, not giving a fuck about nobody, right? So when are we going to start caring about each other? When are we going to start looking out for each other, right? So every now and again, you need a Trump to come along and make you worry and care about each other again. We ain't doing nothing for the homeless people in our cities and states. Ain't nobody in the cities and states, government officials coming out with housing projects to make it better for their cities and states. Everybody keep asking the president for more money to assist their state, but no state is actually doing anything for their state. Look at the roads, right? Look at what's going on in the state. Look at the crime rates in the state. Look at the unemployment rates in the state. Look at the homeless rates in the state, right? So every state government official got their hand out asking for more money from the Federal Reserve and the president, but none of them really doing shit for their state. All these houses that's abandoned, all these project buildings that's abandoned, why not fix them up? Why not put the housing and the homeless in there? Why not give them the incentive, right? Why not start a homeless incentive program where you're actually allowing the homeless to be employed and so on and so forth? And you do certain boundaries around it. Make sure they're drug tested, so on and so forth, mental health, everything like that, right? You can start projects for stuff like that, but they're not. So every now and again, you need a mega to come in and make you care about each other again. And if he's pushing peace, then that's what we about over here at the Atlas Network. Peace.
Pete, could you say something about the military?
If you about peace, put a 1 in the chat.
Well, Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And at your direction this morning, we mobilized the DC National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army.
We need to drug test this guy.
You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in.
You go first.
Other National Guard units.
You go get drug tested
units.
first.
They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the President noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing, working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful, and as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong, we're right behind you. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm going to ask Pam, because she's now, as you heard me say, she's really in charge of a lot of what we're talking about. She's done an incredible job. And people are going to start to see the fruits of her labor. And Pam, maybe you could say a few words about what we're talking about here.
Sure, President. Let me be crystal clear. Crime in DC is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. President, thank you for caring about our capital. Families come here every summer. Our museums are free. We have the National Zoo. We have the National Gallery. DC should be a place where everyone can come and feel safe. Behind me and to my side, we have some of the best career law enforcement and prosecutors in the country who are ready to take this on. As the President said, Terry Cole is going to be supervising the Metro Police Department. Gaddy Serrata, our U.S. Marshal, is going to be supervising command and control, the entire operation. Our Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and I will be working with them closely, along with our great FBI Director, Kash Patel. Kash is going to talk to you in a minute about what we did in Virginia recently with Governor Youngkin. Many of you covered that, and it was tremendously successful. Not only that, our secret weapon here in D.C. is U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, one of the toughest prosecutors and a former judge. And she is going to be talking about juvenile crime, how it's out of control here, and what she's going to do to fight back. No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital. No more teenage girls beating a disabled man to death. No more of that. No more drive-bys. We're going to do everything we can, and working with the ATF.
Not the drive-bys.
Director Driscoll and Commander of the Army. We're going to all work together. That's what we all do in this room. We work together, we fight. Do not underestimate one person in this room. We're going to make DC beautiful. We're going to make DC safe again.
Let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all think this is a way for them to attack, do y'all think they're using this as a way to go after like the ghettos and stuff like that? You think they're using this as a way to go after inner city?
One other thing, just at the wharf a few days ago, the area of the wharf, Terry Cole reached out to me, not even nightfall, on the weekend, where so many families in tourists go. A guy's overdosing from fentanyl on a park bench in the middle of families around. They administered Narcan and saved his life. No more of that. The President of the United States is going to clean up DC, and we're going to be there to help him, and we're going to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Cash, talk about Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia, we had a big success.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for your leadership, Deputy Attorney General, and the rest of our interagency partners. Mr. President, the following is what happens when you let good cops be cops, and I just want to highlight that before I get into Northern Virginia. This year alone, under President Trump's administration, we've had over 4,000 child victims identified and found. That's a 33% increase from the same time period last year. 33% increase. We've had a seizure of 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl up to this date. That is a 25% increase since the same time period last year. And just to put it in perspective, 1,500 kilograms of fentanyl is enough to kill 115 million Americans. 115 million Americans. Cops are getting after it. The FBI has arrested 19,000 people this year alone. Thanks to President Trump's administration, that's double than where we were this time last year. And we have also arrested 1,600 people who have committed violent acts against children. 270 of them are human traffickers of children. Mr. President, this is what happens when you have great leadership at the Attorney General with Pam Bondi, your administration's priority of protecting the homeland and protecting American citizens and protecting our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities. And how do we do it? And what are we going to bring to D.C.? What we did in Northern Virginia, thanks to Terry Cole and Governor Youngkin and the team, we stood up a task force out in my Northern Virginia field office, and we said, let's let good cops be cops, let's get them the intelligence and what they need, and let's get the red tape out of their way, and let's get DOJ partnered up with us to bring great prosecutions, and that's exactly what we did. In 1 month, we arrested 545 violent felons, 545 in the state of Virginia, thanks to Governor Youngkin's partnership. And that simplicity in law enforcement is what's coming to Washington, D.C. When you let good cops be cops, when you give them the intel they need, when you work with our Homeland Security Task Force, when you work with Terry and Gaddy and I go way back to Miami, these guys are great leaders of the respective departments and law enforcement capacities. And when you have the DOJ and President Trump driving behind this mission, we are going to clean up Washington, D.C., and we're going to do it the right way, the lawful way, and we're going to make sure Washington, D.C. is safe again. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cash. So the process begins right now. It actually started over the weekend. We confronted a lot of very bad people, but it's going to be something that will be pretty amazing to you as you watch it. And I think most of you say it's a beautiful thing to do it right. We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on. They've been very dirty, got a lot of problems. But we've already started that. We're moving the encampments away, trying to take care of people. Some of those people, we don't know how they even got there. Some of those people are from different countries, different parts of the world. Nobody knows who they are. They have no idea, but they're there. Getting rid of the people from underpasses and public spaces from all over the city. There are many places that they can go, and we're going to help them as much as you can help. But they'll not be allowed to turn our capital into a wasteland for the world to see. The Metropolitan Police Department and the federal authorities will be supported in the effort, a really big effort, the 800 DC National Guardsmen that we'll put on, and much more if necessary, much more. You remember I said, I offered 10,000 once. Remember I said to a certain person who I thought always was highly overrated, not very competent, but I said, if you need them, we'll give you 10,000 of the military or the National Guard. They turned me down. But if necessary, we're going to move service members directly to joining the Guardsmen. And that'll take place very rapidly, and that'll be done in conjunction with Pam and with Pete and everybody else. Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, and most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. And We're going to make it that. We're going to make it safe. We're going to make it smart. We're going to make it beautiful. So beautiful. Some of the buildings, we're going to add to it. You see what we've done at the White House. White House is a whole different building. I do that in my part-time because it's a natural instinct as a real estate person. I was very good at that, and I was very good at fixing things up. I like fixing things up. You see what's happening. The marble floors are being reinstalled, renovated, fixed. The whole place is becoming very beautiful. We're going to be adding a magnificent ballroom, most beautiful ballroom, I think, anywhere. We need it. I would have certainly loved to have had it today. I think we would have filled it up. A lot of you are standing outside, can't get in this room. I've never seen the room like this, which tells me that you want to talk about, I mean, this was a DC news conference. It tells me that you want to talk about crime in DC and beautification of DC, but I'm going to put that's easy. And I think, frankly, fixing the crime with the pros, fixing the crime is easy too. A person who I've known for a long time, and she's been incredible. She was a fantastic, one of the best ever district attorneys in New York. She was in Westchester, and she became a judge, very successful judge. And then she went into showbiz because she was such a good DA and such a good judge, tough judge, but fair, always fair. Nobody ever complained about that, but she was tough. And because of that and her reputation, she went into showbiz. So a lot of people don't, they think of Janine as showbiz. Actually, showbiz was not her thing. And she did great. She was on, along with a couple of other of my friends, on the #1 show. And she did great, but this is what she loves doing. This is really her baby. What she's going to do is going to be incredible. And I'd like to speak for just a few seconds on what she has in mind, what she wants to do. We're going to be appointing some judges. We have some open spots, and we're going to take people, because the judges are letting killers out. They just say, go, that's okay, don't worry about it. So we're putting some, Pam recommended, Todd recommended, some judges that are great. Janine recommended. Janine's given me 3 great candidates already. We've got 10 open spots, so we can probably create some more. We need them. Janine, would you say a few words, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, and to all my partners here. We all want the same thing. We all want a safe city. We want a safe capital. We want to be able to bring our families here. We want to be able to come and enjoy the history that makes this place great. And unfortunately, we are not in that position right now. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for taking the step that we need right now to make criminals understand that they are not going to get away with it anymore. And I'm not going to stand here and go over and over the cases. But what I can tell you is this. I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens, and it starts today. But it's not going to end today, because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is through the State Attorney General, Brian Schwab. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids, because I can't arrest them, I can't prosecute them. They go to family court and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today. Thank you, Mr. President. You're welcome.
Great job. Thank you. If I could, I just signed some executive orders. I'd like to have Will please come up and we'll let the people know what we signed. Do you want to put them down?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
A short while ago in the Oval Office, President Trump signed 2 crucial executive actions to deal with the emergency crime conditions we currently face in the District of Columbia. The first of these was an executive order, as President Trump said before, invoking his powers under Section 40 of the Home Rule Act to take federal control of the DC Metropolitan Police Department. Along with that executive order, President Trump signed the statutorily required notification letters to Mayor Bowser and to the relevant House and Senate committee leaders. The second major executive action that President Trump signed was a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Defense to utilize the National Guard to address the conditions we see on our streets here in DC. It also authorized the Secretary of Defense to work with state governors to utilize their National Guard units if necessary as well. These are bold, decisive steps intended to combat the out-of-control crime conditions we've seen on DC's streets for far too long, and I, for one, am deeply proud to be part of an administration that's finally coming to terms with these issues, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you. So, just to conclude, Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, most beautiful places anywhere in the world. It was years ago. We had one problem that was a pretty big problem. The radical left got out of control and they started trying to rip down statues, and I said, let's go pass a law real fast. We're going to do it real fast, but we were blocked by the Democrats who do not want safety. Nobody gets it. I don't get it. They don't get it because they can't get votes. I don't know how they can win an election with this, but they don't want safety. And I found an old statute, very old, early 1900s, that said if you so much as touch or even think about destroying a statue or a monument in Washington, D.C., you go to jail for 10 years with no probation, no anything. In other words, slightly different than we have today. Today we have cashless bail. There you get jail 10 years. No curtailed sentence, 10 years. And we took it out. Nobody used it. It was never used because, you know, it's harsh. And you remember they started to rip down the statue of Abraham Lincoln. I said, that's a tough one to rip down. He was pretty good, Pam. I think he was pretty good. When the ropes started going around Abraham Lincoln to pull him down, Andrew Jackson, others, and they were heading to the Jefferson Memorial, Thomas Jefferson. We're going to do a big number there. I said, it's time. And I signed that statute immediately. We had it updated. We made it use the same language, all passed by Congress. And I announced it's 10 years in jail, no probation, no anything, 10 years, no curtail sentence if you touch, so much as touch a statue in Washington, D.C. And it was an amazing sight, beautiful sight. Everybody just left. The ropes were hanging around Andrew Jackson. There were 2 ropes around Abraham Lincoln. They left the rope, but everybody just left. And that was the last problem we ever had. You know, that was the last problem that we ever had with the statues. They were going wild, and we.
Hey, for everybody that's on YouTube right now,
I don't want to do exactly as you say. No.
Just for the sake of conversation, if you're not a bot, please put a 1 in the chat. If you are not a bot, please put a 1 in the chat. I just want to see how many people are bots and how many people are not bots. Please, by a show of ones, how many people in here are real? Please put a 1 in the chat if you are a real person, because there's too many Pinocchios out there nowadays. I just want to see that we got real people in here.
Trump gave us rotates around like.
Okay, we got a good number of real people.
They make you sound a little bit.
Hey, well, you know, welcome. I hope y'all follow the page. I hope y'all subscribe to the page.
Because I think everybody agrees with what we're doing.
Shauna said does not compute.
It was like a miracle. Everybody
I'm
left.
sorry,
They were gone.
machine does not
They were
comprehend.
starting to march down. They started the march toward Thomas Jefferson. And I figured he was always going to be safe. But they found something with him, and they found something with Abraham Lincoln. And even in the name George Washington in California, numerous places changed the name of George Washington High School and various other places. They took George Washington's name. This was a sick, woke culture that I think we've largely ended. And a lot of those people that were woke are now turning out to be the opposite. I won't go so far as to say MAGA. It's a very special category. But they've gotten out of that. But we have people that love this country, and they love this really beautiful capital. It is. I flew over it the other day, and I said, what a beautiful place. But if there's crime all over the streets, when you get there, it doesn't look so beautiful. But we're going to make it beautiful again. We're going to fix it with crime, and we're going to also, as we're doing that, we're going to start doing things that we know how to do, that I know how to do better than anybody, I guess, because of my experience from previous life. But not only are we stopping the crime, we're going to clean up the trash and the graffiti and the grime and the dirt and the broken marble panels and all of the things they've done.
Not the grime and the dirt.
And we're going to restore the city back to the gleaming capital that everybody wants it to be. It's going to be something very special. All of these people are really tough. Could I shake your hand, Getty, please? You're going to be so important here. You're going to be that guy. I hope I don't have to fire him in 2 weeks because he's too soft. I don't think he's too soft. If I do, I will, though. Is it okay if you're soft, weak, and pathetic, like so many people? I will fire you so fast. You're not going to have to worry about that. No, I think you're going to do a fantastic job. And everybody in this room, they may not express it, but they all want that to happen.
Soft, weak, and pathetic.
Families too. So it's an honor to have such a large group. I've done this for years now, hard to believe. I've never seen this room so packed. In fact, I'm sure it's a violation of every fire code. But we'll let you stay anyway. You're taking a chance. And with that, we'll say, maybe if you could, oh wow, we could be here all day long. If we could keep the first questions perhaps to this subject, and then we'll go into a few others. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much. Can you talk about how personal of an issue this is? You talked about flying over the Washington Monument and seeing pride of what DC is. Do you believe the status of the city, the cleanliness, the way that crime is low, is a direct reflection on how the country is run?
Yeah, I do. I think the Capitol, look, everyone comes here. They're all coming. All the leaders. They're all wanting to come.
Why would I be mad? I like
Trump.
Trump.
Again, but I'm really just quoting other leaders from
You're in the wrong room.
The Middle East, King of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. I was over there. We brought back $5.1 trillion of investment into our country. But I was, a month and a half ago, I was at NATO. We had a great thing. They agreed to put up 5% instead of 2%. 2% they didn't pay, 5% is already paid. We had a great meeting, and they all said the same thing. They said our country was dead. They thought our country was gone. 1 year ago, they said your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world right now. The tariffs have helped. It's given us not only the money, it's billions, trillions of dollars of money, but it gives us great power over enemies. We solved 5 wars with Pakistan and India, we just solved one. Azerbaijan, and as you know, in Armenia. A war was raging for 37 years.
Right, we should be able to talk and hash things out with words. We should be able to have some, diplomacy, decorum,
and then I said to the 2 men,
integrity.
I said, are you guys friends? And they had a hard time.
Tenacity.
They've been killing each other for 37 years, right? One was there 5 years, one was there for 22 years. He said, my whole life I've been fighting this war, and you got it solved. But we did many of those. We did in the Congo and Rwanda. That's been going on for 30 years. 8 to 9 million people killed that they know of, but it was raging, and we got that solved. We got a lot of them done. It's a great honor. But you want to have when they come, the leaders come to our country to sign documents that the war is over or whatever, or for other reasons. They come for trade. And you want them to come through so beautifully. You ride down those roads, everything should be perfect. You shouldn't have medians falling down into the roadway. Median, you know, the metal things that are always, somebody had a great lobbyist, because I've never seen them look good. I've been looking at those things with the little red. They're always broken, bad, but here they're really bad. And we're gonna either put new or fix it, and it's not expensive. It's not really expensive. Or we're gonna fix our roads a little bit. We're gonna clean up our sidewalks. You have countries where every Saturday, the people go out and they wash their sidewalks in front of their stores or their houses. They scrub their sidewalks. So we aren't quite at that level yet, I don't think. Gaddy, we're not quite there yet, but maybe we will. They go out and they scrub. I think it's so beautiful to hear that and to see those stories. But we're going to make it clean. But just to finish with your question, it's a very, very strong reflection of our country. And when they see a bad city, you know, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart, and he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in, because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty.
Dirty.
They don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
Mr. President, sorry. Question for you on a specific issue. Do you expect more cities to follow DC's path if this goes through? So the idea is that Chicago, LA, San Francisco, would they expect similar action to what we've seen in DC? And the other question, sir, there's reporting that the administration is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, or we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but you know, somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next, I would say, over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, you know, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and you know, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things, but for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. The other part of your question, I mean, we're just going to see what happens with it all. You're going to have, we're going to have a tremendous success of what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful, I have zero doubt about that. It's going to be, it's a question of will it be really fast, like the border. You know, everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation, I didn't get any legislation. I called up our people, and we did a great job. Tom Homan was great. As you know, our secretary did a great job. They did a great job. There's no games. They didn't play games. And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You know, you never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business. But when I look at Chicago and I look at LA, if we didn't go to LA 3 months ago, LA would be burning like the part that didn't burn. If he would have allowed the water to come down, which I told them about in my first term. I said, you're gonna have problems, let it come down. We actually sent in our military to have the water come down into LA. They still didn't want it to come down after the fires. But that was it, we have it coming down. But hopefully LA's watching. That mayor also, the city's burning. They lost like 25,000 homes. I went there the day after the fire. You were there, and I saw people standing in front of a burned down home. It was, their homes were incinerated. They weren't like, even the steel was literally, it was all warped and literally disintegrated because of the winds and the flame and the whole thing, like a blowtorch. They were standing on this beautiful day, maybe a couple of days after. We gave it a little time because what they had suffered. Almost 25,000 homes. And you see what's happening now. They didn't give their permits. I went to a town hall meeting. I said, we're gonna get you the federal permits, which are much harder. Almost immediately, Lee Zeldin is a star. He did an incredible job. They have all their federal permits. They don't have their city permits. And the mayor said to me,
You think those DEW weapons are real?
I was walking down the street and I met with firemen and police. And I was saying hello to many people that were standing in front of their homes with yellow tape. You can't go in, you can't go onto the lot. And those people wanted to start rebuilding their homes then and there. And the mayor said, we should be able to get them the permits within 2 years. I said, that's a shame, 2 years, are you kidding? I'm gonna get them the federal permit like almost immediately, 2 years. And she drew it back, well, maybe 1 year. The place was booing her out of the place. They don't have their permits to build their homes. And now they're talking about putting, this is among the most beautiful areas was in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing. They haven't gotten their permits yet. We've gotten all the federal permits, which are much tougher to get. And it was done almost immediately through Lee Zeldin and Federal Environmental. And I watched the other day, those people are angry. And now, you know, they had tremendous, they loved that area. They loved the whole big area, different places, but they loved it. It was all luxury stuff and beautiful stuff. And some wasn't that luxury, but the level of love for that neighborhood, their neighborhoods was incredible. And you know what? I watch people on television, they want to go, they want to leave. They've lost their spirit, they've lost their heart, because the mayor's incompetent. And Gavin Newsom is incompetent. He's got a good line of bullshit, but that's about it. He's incompetent. And you have Los Angeles is, you know, it's amazing. You know, I called, the first thing I did, I got the Olympics to go there. I was the one that got it. And by a rare thing that happened, I'll be the president. I was very upset because I got the Olympics there, and I said I won't be president when it comes, but bad things happened, and illegal things happened, really illegal things happened. Now it turns out, one good thing was I'm going to be the president for the Olympics for 2050, for 250, which is going to be fantastic, and also for the World Cup. So we have a lot of good things, and I hope 250 is going to be, the 250th anniversary is going to be the best. But when I looked at those people, and I saw last night on television that they still don't have their permits, it's a disgrace what's happened in Los Angeles.
Thank you. The China tariff deadline is tonight, but do you plan to extend that?
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China, as you probably have heard. They have tremendous tariffs that they're paying to the United States of America. And we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
You mentioned bringing the President Putin. Can you tell us what you hope to get out of that, and whether you consider inviting President Zelensky to join?
So you have to understand, this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. Would have never happened. It was the apple of his eye. Got along very well with President Putin. But if you look, under President Bush, they took a lot of territory. Under President Obama, they took a lot of territory. Under Biden, they essentially took the whole thing. You know, it's just a question of time. Under Trump, you know what they took? Nothing, nothing. I was the one that said, you can't build your pipeline that was half built. I came in, I stopped the pipeline, scored called Nord Stream 2. Nobody knows that, nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. You might have not even heard of it. Biggest pipeline in the world. I stopped it. I was not a friend of Russia, but I got along well with Putin. It's always good to get along with other countries if possible, but that doesn't mean you roll over like Biden did. Biden came in and he immediately approved the pipeline. I couldn't believe it. Then they say Trump wasn't tough on Russia. I wasn't tough. I was the toughest. Putin said, if you're not tough, I would hate like hell to see you visit. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job that Russia had ever built. I stopped it. It was dead. And this low IQ president came in and he let them build a pipeline and supply oil and gas all over Europe, So this is really a feel-out meeting, a little bit. And President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have like a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place, and you'd have 60 people laying on a road dying. I said, that's cold, but it's a violent war. 5,000 to 7,000 people a week are dying. And there's nobody from here. They're all Russian and Ukrainian people, and some people from the cities, much smaller number, but still, those missiles do damage and they kill a lot of people, but mostly soldiers. And they're young soldiers, although in the case of Ukraine, they're getting much older. They're drafting 60-year-olds now. It's a terrible thing to witness, and I think I have an obligation. Look, this is Joe Biden's war. This is not my war. I made a deal with NATO a month ago. You covered it very accurately, actually. We don't pay anything anymore. We're not paying anything. They are buying things from us, and NATO is paying us. I got it raised from 2% of GDP to 5%. And they're paying us for everything that we send. We're not paying. But Biden approved $350 billion. Europe has spent $100 billion. The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin. And I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war, you got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. We had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office. The auto pen took office. Bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said. And it ended up in a war. And and I don't believe this will happen anymore because I have that pretty well covered. This could end up in a third world war. This could have been a third world war. I don't think that's going to happen now. But I thought it was very respectful that the president of Russia is coming to our country as opposed to us going to his country or even a third party place. But I think we'll have constructive conversations. Then after that meeting, immediately, maybe as I'm flying out, maybe as I'm leaving the room, I'll be calling the European leaders who I get along with very well. And, I have a great relationship, I think, with all of them. And I get along with Zelensky, but, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. But it's very complex because you have lines that are very uneven. And there'll be some swapping, there'll be some changes in land. And the word that they will use is, they make changes. And we're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine. But they've taken some very prime territory. They've taken largely ocean You know, in real estate, we call it oceanfront property. That's always the most valuable property. If you're in a lake, a river, or an ocean, it's always the best property. Well, Ukraine, a lot of people don't know that Ukraine was largely 1,000 miles of ocean. That's gone. Other than one small area, Odessa, it's a small area. There's just a little bit of water left. So I'm going to go and see the parameters. Now, I may leave and say, good luck, and that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled. I mean, there are those that believe that Putin wanted all of Ukraine. I happen to be one of them, by the way. I think if it weren't for me, he would not be even talking to anybody else right now. But I'm going to meet
What
with
you
him
talking about,
and see
Willis?
what the parameters are. I'm then going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal. I think a deal should be made for both. I think Russia has to get back into building their country. It's a massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it. It's a massive, it's by far, from the standpoint of land, it's by far the largest. They have tremendous potential in Russia to do well. They're not doing well. Their economy is not doing well right now because it's been very well disturbed by this. It doesn't help when the President of the United States tells their largest or second largest oil buyer that we're putting a 50% tariff on you if you buy oil from Russia. That was a big blow. And then they say, gee, he wasn't so tough. Nobody else would have done that. And I haven't stopped there. I mean, look, I was all set to do things far bigger than that, but I got a call that they'd like to meet, and I'm going to see what they want to meet about. I'd like to see a ceasefire. I'd like to see the best deal that could be made for both parties. You know, it takes two to tango, right? So ultimately, I'll have a meeting next week. I had a great relationship with him, considering the fact that, you know, I was not nice to him because of the pipeline. I ended the pipeline. I also gave the javelins. Do you ever hear of a javelin? Javelin is called a tank buster. They say that Obama gave them sheets and I gave them javelins. If it weren't for me, all those tanks that were destroyed at the first days of the war because the tanks got stuck in the mud, some commander made a better, you know, they would have been in Kiev in 4 hours going down the highway. But a Russian general made a brilliant decision to go through the farmland instead. And they just had torrential rains, and the rains were so bad, and it was mud, and those tanks got stuck in the mud. I don't know who that general is, but knowing Vladimir, he's probably not around any longer because all those tanks were stuck in the mud, and they went along with the javelins. I gave them the javelins. You know that, right? I gave them javelins. They gave them sheets. But I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say we can make a deal. I will tell you this, I've seen a poll coming out of Ukraine. 88% of the people would like to see a deal made. And if you go back 3 years, everybody was gung-ho for war. You know, everybody's gung-ho for war until you have it. It's an amazing thing. I had it with a couple of countries where I couldn't get a deal done with one particular country. And I just couldn't. The guy's great. He's a friend of mine. Great. Good leader. Tough as hell. I couldn't get the deal done. And then he went into war for a short period of time. You know where I'm talking about. First term. And it was nasty. Guys being killed all over the place. And he went through 1 week of war, and I was able to get the deal done. He said, this is nasty. Yes, please.
Yeah, just to follow up on what you were saying. First of all, Volodymyr Zelensky is not invited on Friday?
He wasn't a part of it. I would say he could go, but he's gone to a lot of meetings. You know, he's been there for 3.5 years, nothing happened.
Now, what is the definition?
I mean, you want somebody that's been doing this for 3.5 years? What's the definition of a good deal? I'll tell you after I hear what the deal is. Because there could be many definitions. You know, you're talking about a very large and complex situation. Now, I tell you, the war that I just settled with Azerbaijan and with, as you know, in Armenia, was almost as complex as this one. having to do with routes,
Successful
trade.
meeting on Friday with Vladimir.
Well, we're gonna have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, and at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be
How will
made.
you know that?
Because that's what I do, I make deals. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to ask you two questions, one about China, one about Russia, if I could. On China, your administration agreed to send the most advanced or advanced NVIDIA and AMD chips.
No, obsolete, no.
Obsolete chip. Well, and then 15% of the
I
profits
mean, the
come back.
20s. No, this is an old chip that China already has. And I deal with Jensen, who is a great guy, and NVIDIA. The chip that we're talking about, the H20, it's an old chip. China already has it in a different form, different name, but they have it. Or they have a combination of two will make up for it and even then some. Now Jensen's a very brilliant guy, and Jensen also has a new chip, the Blackwell. Do you know what the Blackwell is? The Blackwell is super duper advanced. I wouldn't make a deal with that, although it's possible I'd make a deal, a somewhat enhanced in a negative way Blackwell. In other words, take 30% to 50% off of it. But that's the latest and the greatest in the world. Nobody has it. They won't have it for 5 years. But the H20 is obsolete. You know, it's one of those things, but it still has a market. So I said, listen, I want 20% if I'm going to approve this for you, for the country, for our country, for the U.S. I don't want it myself. You know, every time I say like 747, I want, yeah, for the Air Force. That's all I just wanted. So when I say I want 20, I want for the country. I only care about the country. I don't care about myself. And he said, would you make it 15? So we negotiated a little deal. So he's selling a essentially old chip that Huawei has a similar chip, a chip that does the same thing. And I said, good, if I'm going to give it to you, because they have a, they have a stopper, what we call a stopper, not allowed to do it. It's really known as a restrictive covenant. And I said, if I'm going to do that, I want you to pay us as a country something, because I'm giving you a release. I released them only from the H20. Now, on the Blackwell, I think he's coming to see me again about that. But that will be a unenhanced version of the big one. Like, I don't know if you know it, we will sometimes sell fighter jets to a country and we'll give them 20% less than we have. Do you know what I mean, right? That's the same.
So on Russia, do you see a time, Mr. President, when there could be normal trade between the U.S. and Russia? Should the meeting go well? Should there be peace?
I do, yeah. Russia has a very valuable piece of land. If Vladimir Putin would go toward business instead of toward war, it's a warring nation. That's what they do. They fight a lot of wars. A friend of mine said Russia's tough because they just keep on fighting. They beat Hitler, so did we, and they beat Napoleon. They've been doing this for a long time. I asked a question to a very, very smart man that some people like and some people don't like. Viktor Orban, right? From Hungary, the head of Hungary. And he's in that same area and knows the two countries very well. I said, this was before Biden didn't do anything to get us out of it. He could have gotten us out of that. It would have never happened. I said, so can Russia be beaten by Ukraine? He looked at me like, what a stupid question. He said, Russia's a massive country and they win their country and they win their life through wars. They fight wars. That's what they do. He said, China beats you with trade. Russia beats you with war. That was a very interesting statement. China's not beating us with trade, not when I'm in charge. But they were beating Biden with trade, but they never beat us with trade. Don't forget, China had to pay $400 billion worth of tariffs when I was last time. That was last time. And if we didn't have COVID, all of this stuff we would be loaded. We're finding hundreds of billions of dollars of cash is pouring into our country now because of tariffs. And all we're doing is we're doing what they do to us. It's so beautiful to see it. They find they found last month, as you saw, $25 billion of excess cash flow. They say, where did it come from? I said, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a place called tariffs, and we're doing very well. We're really doing well. But I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. And I'm here for one reason, to get rid of a war that somebody else started. Should have never happened. And if I could end it, great. Complex war, a lot of bad blood, but Zelensky's been there for 3.5 years, so if you put him in a room, now I will say this, ultimately I'm going to put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or I won't be there, and I think it'll get solved. Yeah, please do. Excuse me, I'm going to suggest, because do you have any other questions on DC? Because I don't want them to be, wait. These are incredible people. I don't want them to be standing up here on subjects that, does anybody have a question of them? And then you guys can leave. Okay, a question, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right.
And by the way, this is only on DC, and then they're gonna leave because it's unfair to have them stand up here all day long. Brian.
I've got two questions for you. First, about DC. This is personal for me as well. Last year, I was robbed on the streets by one of these teenage thugs. Had a gun, got away with it. Let's talk about the effort that between law enforcement, prosecutors,
not
and
one of them
judges,
teenage thugs.
You know, recycling, like these kids go, they don't fear the police. They know it. If you talk about how we've got to get these judges.
Nah, it ain't a pro-mega channel. We're just for peace. Anybody that's for peace, that's who we rocking with. Right is right, wrong is wrong. That's what we believe over here on this channel.
Okay, it's real. Do you want me to answer it?
Right is right, wrong is wrong. Anybody for peace.
Assuming that there's 17
we all make mistakes.
Older than 17 years old, I can get the case. If they're under 18 years of age, I can only get the case if it's murder, rob one, rape, even if they shoot a gun but don't kill you, I can't get it. So the law has to be changed. As the president said, capseless battle. That has to be changed. All right, then even assuming I get the case, I get jurisdiction, I get a conviction, the DC Council has given the judges the ability to give probation on shootings. And so then it's up to them. All of these things, the Youth Rehabilitation Incarceration Reduction Act, and now they want to seal records.
Let's see. Epstein Files. Epstein Files latest with Trump. You got this right here.
The Department of Justice is set to begin turning over some of Jeffrey Epstein's files to Congress this Friday. The DOJ was originally warned.
There you go. Here you go. Epstein Files.
But the deadline has been extended. So joining me now to talk about it, CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman. She's here in studio. Good to see you. So what do we know about
hold on.
documents that these
Let's find one better.
Expected to turn over?
Well, so we know they're supposed to start turning them over on Friday, Vlad. And this is a trove of files. There's supposedly hundreds of gigabytes of material, physical documents, videos, photos, audio, but they're also saying that they need time to redact this. So they're supposed to turn it over in batches. They're going to be redacting victims' names, any child pornographic material. But, it's unclear in the end what exactly will come out of this. It's being turned over to Congress. We don't know if the public will still get to see these materials, but this is, one step forward for the Department of Justice to be giving these materials to the House Oversight Committee.
All right, let's talk about something we discussed yesterday. Bill Barr met with members of Congress during a closed-door investigation hearing. What do we know about the testimony?
Well, we know they questioned him for 4 hours, and Chairman James Comer stepped out during it and said that he had not said anything that implicated President Donald Trump, that he hadn't seen anything that implicated Trump, also that he didn't know anything about the client list. This is something people have been asking for. However, there were also Democratic representatives, Vlad, who came out and said They felt like they had more questions than answers after this. Jasmine Crockett said that she thinks the person they really need to call is Alex Acosta. He was the U.S. attorney in Florida when Epstein was being investigated. We talked about this yesterday. He's the one who gave him this non-prosecution agreement and would really know about this investigation, what happened there. So it's just a glaring thing that he has not been subpoenaed when they have all of these people that they're planning to talk to. Also, when Barr left, reporters were shouting questions at him. Someone said, "Do you still think that Mr. Epstein died by suicide?" And he seemed to answer, "Yes, I do." So that's one of the questions people have been curious about.
Wow. So safe to say, to be continued?
Yes.
To be continued. All right, Katrina Clough, always good to have you.
Thanks,
Thank
Vlad.
you. Appreciate it. After years of public pressure to release the Epstein files.
See? There's nothing coming out about it. It's going to be released today. Congress is going to get it today.
First wave of Epstein files
But
that
nothing,
were sent to
it's nothing
Congress.
really in it.
The House Oversight Committee started receiving unreleased files related to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein from the Justice Department today. Chair James Comer says the committee will check what information has been redacted.
They saying it's still a go,
Now to the first wave of Epstein files that was. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Person in Florida last month. Now that raised some questions among members of Congress
And the recording that's out, let me see if I can get the recording.
Transferred to a lower security prison in Texas, but she did talk more extensively about her engagement and involvement with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, although she seemed to allude that there was really no incriminating, for instance, client list that existed with respect to Jeffrey Epstein. Take a listen to what she told Blanche during that two-day interview.
I never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
So again, Maxwell indicating that she never saw President Trump in any type of inappropriate behavior, compromising behavior. Of course, there had been a lot of speculation about A, whether or not there was some type of client list, and B, who may have been on it, given Epstein's associations with figures like President Trump before he took office, also people like former President Bill Clinton even. She was asked by Blanche whether or not she knew if former President Clinton had gotten a massage. She said no, she didn't. So again, at this point in time, it appears she didn't reveal any type of incriminating information about some of these high-profile figures.
Yeah, a lot of information to delve through, over 300 pages. I want to ask you about this, Nicole. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee obviously subpoenaed the Justice Department for Epstein investigation documents. Now, that committee received a portion of the files today. Any idea if and when that information may be made public?
The committee hasn't made that clear. Keep in mind, there were about 34,000 pages that were transferred to the committee late today, and this was just a portion related to the Epstein files. But a committee spokesperson tells us that they, of course, are going to conduct a thorough review of these documents, make sure that any sensitive information is redacted from them before making them publicly available. Jerika.
Yeah, a lot to weed through because we have the audio, the transcripts, and then all of that other information that are coming from the Epstein investigation documents. Nicole Killian, thank you so much.
The House Oversight Committee started receiving unreleased files.
See? There's nothing to really release on that. Everybody keeps on coming in screaming, Epstein's file, Epstein's file. If that's y'all biggest defense, then y'all gonna be shook because there's nothing coming out on that.
See, President Trump.
Yes, he was there in 93.
Reporting for the first time tonight, raising fresh questions for Trump and other government officials. We are going to explain this, what you see here coming up in this first segment of the show. A timeline that actually will make more sense, we think, when you recall the facts. How Epstein first presented as an elite, wealthy person with ties to other important people, but then his whole facade showed sudden cracks when local police investigated a report of Epstein molesting a 14-year-old, leading to government plans to charge him, which were then watered down into a lesser charge under a secret deal with a Republican appointee, Alex Acosta.
Jeffrey Epstein went to jail just before 10 this morning. He pleaded guilty in open court.
There is no argument that Epstein got an extraordinary break. A backroom deal, some have described it.
What was so important to the government that sex crimes described in this agreement were treated so lightly?
Because of apparently some very high-powered attorneys, they've treated Mr. Epstein much differently.
Very differently. The Bush prosecutor who did that largely let the co-conspirators that were under investigation go and Epstein off the hook with a brief sentence. That prosecutor, later promoted by Trump, we'll get to that, but the evasion of accountability there, under public pressure, was a problem. And so as the pressure built, later, career prosecutors in DOJ, one of whom was later fired by Trump, then brought the case during Trump's first term, which changed everything. And then we had Epstein suddenly dying in federal custody.
NBC News has learned that disgraced financier Jeff.
Nothing. So these files that's going to get released.
In this, today.
She said that he didn't do nothing. She didn't hear nothing about him saying this or saying that. Right?
Somebody else had done that.
I did ask some people, I don't remember Mr. Trump, I don't remember who I did ask, but Epstein also asked people himself directly.
Okay.
So it could have happened that way, if it happened at all.
Okay, Dave, if you're going to have a Justice Department official go to speak to a convicted child trafficker to talk about an investigation, why is he asking her about something that was in the news just days before? What does this birthday book have to do with the situation she finds herself in?
This interview has nothing to do with evidence or filing charges against someone else. It's about exonerating President Trump. That's why they sent Todd Blanche down. Todd Blanche doesn't know the details of this.
Exactly.
If they really wanted to get to the bottom of things, they would have sent out a line prosecutor who is an expert in this. That's who they should send. That's it.
But they fired her.
Oh, that's right. There's a purpose for sending down Blanche and no one else.
Right. We're going to bring in Melanie Zanona, who is a coalitionist, not the White House. Melanie, we talk about how the White House is looking at this. How do you feel, and what are you hearing from folks on the Hill? Because Representative Garcia said that the vast majority of these documents were already out in public. Is that the same thing that you're hearing from other Democrats and maybe even some Republicans behind closed doors?
Well, the reactions have really fallen along party lines, perhaps not surprisingly. I think we should point out we actually don't know what's in the documents that were released to Congress because the committee has said they're going to only make that public after they get all the documents. And according to Garcia, they only received about 33,000 pages out of the 100,000 documents related to this case. So really just a drop in the bucket compared to overall what we're dealing here with. But Garcia says the things that they received yesterday are mostly things that are already public, like court transcripts, for example. He did say perhaps there is some new information related to Epstein's plane and some of the flight information, but overall, he said what they got yesterday was really nothing new. Meanwhile, Republicans mostly praising the release of this transcript. Chairman Comer, he's the Republican head of the committee, put out a statement knocking the Biden DOJ and saying under Trump, they're getting more information faster than they ever have before. But the subtext here is that they didn't even want to go down this route initially. This was something that the GOP leadership really tried to put the kibosh on. They tried to move on from. It was only when a subpoena was issued with the help of Democrats and a trio of Republicans on that committee that they actually moved forward with this effort. And so the hope at this point among the leadership and even the White House is that releasing these files to Capitol Hill, even though it's just the first batch, in conjunction with that transcript that they publicly released yesterday of the DOJ jailhouse interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, will be enough to quell some of this furor from the MAGA base. But that really remains to be seen, Eugene, because there is this bipartisan duo on Capitol Hill led by Thomas Massey, a Republican, Ro Khanna, a Democrat, who say they want to force a vote after the August recess that would force the immediate release of all the documents with very minimal redactions. And as of right now, they say they are still full head of steam with that effort.
Melanie, real quickly, you mentioned only 33,000 pages have been turned over to the committee of 100,000 documents. And I raise this distinction because a document could have multiple pages. So we could be talking about more than maybe 1,000,000 pages.
Yeah, there could absolutely be just a wide swath of documents that we're talking about here. And the DOJ, interestingly, chose not to release it all at once to the committee. They're doing this in drips and drabs, and according to Garcia, at least, the first batch was things that were already made public. Now, this could be because they are combing through on the legal side of things and trying to make sure that they're not revealing sensitive information about victims. That is something the committee also said they want to make sure doesn't happen when they do eventually, allegedly, release all of the documents. But yes, just the scale here we're talking about, this is just a very small batch. There were hope among Republicans it's enough sort of red meat to the base. We'll see if that's actually true.
Melanie Zanona at the White House, thank you so much, and good luck with all the construction or whatever's happening behind you.
See? There's nothing coming out about that. They're just going to keep on making it a wild goose chase, keep on putting it further and further out there. Let's see what's up with this 3i. Let's get some updates on that.
Just when we thought Oumuamua was the most puzzling visitor from beyond our solar system, another cosmic enigma has arrived, meaning no threat, just opportunity.
Physicist Stefan Burns here with the space weather model for this.
This video was brought to...
Something is coming, not from Mars.
What that object? Civilization.
Well, what we say we gonna know, what we already know about the 3i Atlas is that it's got its own lights. They saying that it might be nuclear. So they saying that it might be nuclear. That's one of the things that they're saying. That's about it. They don't know what it is. It's moving at a speed that's abnormal for, a comet, so on and so forth. And, maybe that has something to do with all this peace talk and wanting to go to heaven. Maybe there's a lot of people that's afraid in this world, scared that the world is coming to an end or something is changing. Not sure. But a lot of people are afraid in this world right now. And because of that fear, this is what we're getting out of it, right? So, love is love. Namaste, ashe, salutation, shalom, peace. We are in it together. There's no me without you. I hope that you guys join the Discord. If the Discord link is working, I hope you guys join the Discord. We'll love to see you over there. If not, download Discord and send a message to Energy of Atlas 111. That's my name over on Discord. Energy of Atlas with 4 1s in it. No spaces. Energy of Atlas 1111. And send me a message over there and I'll send you an invite to the Discord. I would love to have more people over there. We would love to have more people over there. We're going to try to keep you guys updated. It should be some stuff coming out over the weekend, a little bit before Monday. We should get an update on this second meeting with Russia. We should get an update on the Ukraine war, what's going on with Venezuela, so on and so forth. So I hope you guys tune in. And at 3:20, there's going to be a premiere on the page to tell you guys what you can expect from this page and everything like that. So check out the premiere on this page at 3:20. Love is love. Namaste. Ashe. Salutation. Shalom. And if any of the mods are watching the premiere at 3:20, feel free to plug all the links to the different things that's going to come up on there as you watch. I did do a little, I think it's a 20-minute video or something like that, and premiered it just to give people an idea of what the Atlas family and network bring. Love is love, man. I hope you guys have a great Sabbath day and enjoy every moment of sunshine. Every moment of sunshine. And if you haven't subscribed to the page yet, I hope you subscribe to the page Replay gang, do your thing, and we're out. We're going to play the game.